Narcissist speech patterns. They don't get to the point. They include irrelevant information. They have long, rambling introductions. They have a whole bunch of useless blabber with a tiny amount of useful information. And they repeat the same sentence verbatim again and again and again. So instead of explaining something in a different way or giving an example or going more in depth or rephrasing it, they will literally say the exact same thing again and again. So I'm going to talk about some of these things in a little more depth. By the way, I'm a life coach. I'm not a psychologist. So if you want to diagnose yourself or somebody else, you should go talk to them, like a therapist or social worker or psychologist, any of that stuff. I don't do that. This is just my own personal experience of having known a lot of narcissists. And lately I've been getting very annoyed by podcasts and YouTube videos. Now I love these because you can listen while you do productive things like cleaning. I think that's a great use of time. However, 9 times out of 10, there is nothing useful in there. And you can listen to those things for like 2 hours. And there are maybe 2 sentences of useful information, and I find that very annoying. And I've been like dissecting this and trying to pull out the main problems with why people do that, and then it hit me that this is a narcissist thing. I'm not saying all podcasters or YouTubers are narcissists, of course, but some of them are, in my opinion. I think some are. I'm not going to name names. And you might have noticed that some seem like this to you as well. And these are the things that I find infuriating. And when I see it enough, I just stop watching that person. But I hate doing that because sometimes they might have something of value to say somewhere buried in that 2 hours. So first, let's talk about how they repeat the same sentence again and again. Because this is stuff you can use when you're listening to stuff or talking to people to identify time wasters. I'm not saying every single one of these people is a narcissist, but it's a pattern that I've seen, and I believe a lot of them are. And even if they're not, they're still wasting your time. So it's good to understand speech patterns that waste your time and pretend to give you information when they really are not giving you anything of value. The repeating themselves thing, I've noticed this in podcast videos. And it's also how narcissists teach other people. They're not good teachers. They repeat the same sentence again and again, verbatim, and then they just start yelling. So it's like, okay, if I'm trying to tell you how to do math, and I'm like, divide by 7. Divide by 7. Well, wait, I don't understand. Divide by 7. Divide by 7, divide by 7. Like they just repeat the same thing, which is not productive at all, because obviously that person does not understand how do you divide by 7, right? You need to teach them that or rephrase it in a different way. Like we're going to take this and we're going to put it into 7 different parts or whatever it is. I hope that's right about math. I'm not good at math. I think I can divide okay, but so that's something you'll see in teachers where they don't know how to rephrase or use an example, or let's take a piece of clay and divide it into 7 parts so you can see what that really means to divide by 7. They just will repeat the same thing exactly, not rephrased, and they'll often yell it. But even when they're not teaching or explaining things to somebody, oh, and by the way, when they do that, they will often call the other person stupid. Are you stupid? Can't you just get it? Just divide by 7, divide by 7, divide by 7. And I find that so ironic that they're calling the other person stupid when they're not smart enough to know how to rephrase something and actually teach them in a way that makes any sense. I don't know if that might be projection or if just the lack of self-awareness, I don't know. But in podcasts also, I want to give you some examples of how this speech pattern shows up. Let's say that my tip for you in a video is look both ways before you cross the street. I know, shocking new information that you had no idea. A narcissist might have a very long, rambling introduction to get to that point. So the video is called something like, "Don't die, the big tip that you need to stay alive." And you're like, oh, I don't want to die. So you watch the video. Instead of just telling you, look both ways in the beginning, they string you along. And I know this is a marketing thing too, but I also, I think it's a narcissist marketing thing, because I've worked in marketing and I didn't do things like that. I never strung people along. I would give them the info first, then elaborate on it, and they'd want to keep reading to get the detail. Instead of putting the detail in the last minute of a 2-hour video, hoping they'll sit through it, which I think people are smart enough that they won't sit through that. I hope they would be. So, long rambling introduction, and they will then repeat that phrase, that sentence verbatim again and again and again. And all of their points, they tend to do this because they think their point is so important that they just repeat it again and again. So if I was a narcissist, I would just repeat that past sentence. If they think it's so important, or they think it's so important that they will repeat it again and again. They will repeat it again and again. Again and again. They will repeat, they just will do this. And it might partially be to just fill airtime, but I think it's other factors as well, thinking their opinion is so important that they have to say it 5 times. Okay, so the crossing the street thing, if we have a whole podcast about how to not get hit by a car, the secret to not getting hit by a car, so you stay alive, and then we have rambling, irrelevant info in the beginning, and we finally get to that important part. If you don't want to get hit by a car, look both ways. I'm pretending to be a narcissist right now. If you don't want to get hit by a car, you gotta look both ways. You have to look both ways. If you don't want to get hit by a car, and I know you don't, and I know you don't, I'm sure you don't. If you don't want to get hit by a car, you have to look both ways. Look both ways. Both ways. You gotta go like this. And this will just go on and on and on. So what you can do is, after you watch a video or a podcast, look back. How many main points did they make? Did they go into depth on those points? Did they support what they were saying with examples or something? Or was it just the same sentence repeated again and again with a dramatic, loud voice, which is what they tend to do? Oh, it's so frustrating. Some of them, I've noticed, will repeat almost every sentence that they say. They will repeat almost every sentence that they say. See how I just did that? So your video ends up being twice as long right there because they're repeating every sentence. They're repeating every sentence. So it ends, see, I did it a second time there, so you can see what that pattern is like. So look for this stuff when you're talking to people in videos and podcasts so that you don't waste your time. And I know a lot of people listen on ×2 speed. I do that as well, so you can kind of see if they tend to do that. You can get past the blabber and try to get to the important point. But usually when I see that again and again, I just stop listening to that person, or someone in real life. I don't want to hang out with someone like that because I don't want to listen to hours of blabber, because that is holding your attention hostage, pretending that they have something valuable. Oh, hey, I know that it's really important to you that you don't get hit by cars, right? And that probably is the case, right? In a personal conversation, they might do this to you. Yeah, I know you said the other week that you were so upset that you saw someone who was hit by a car, so I have a really good tip for you. So then you're listening, and then they will again talk for 2 hours about irrelevant blabber so that you sit there waiting to know what the life-saving piece of information is. 2 hours later, they say, yeah, look both ways. And you're like, yeah, I knew that. You just wasted 2 hours of my time for that. If someone does that to me in real life, it's like, no, forget it. No. So that's just a few of them. There's like a ton more of narcissist speech patterns, but that's just a few of them. And also the irrelevant information, the long rambling before they get to the point, and also saying things like, and it's like they don't even know what their point is the impression that I get. So yeah, okay, so we're gonna talk about some things. Oh gosh, where did I put my notes? Oh, is this my, oh, that's not my notes. That's a movie ticket. Oh gosh, you guys. I was gonna go to the movies. I was gonna go to the movies, and then, oh, funny story, okay? Do you see how everything I just said was irrelevant, useless, blabber? It might be entertaining to listen to if you just compared to staring at a brick wall, it might be interesting. But if you actually are looking for information to understand something, that is just blabber. So listen for that and stuff that you're listening to, and a little bit of that might be okay. It might even be entertaining, get to know them better as a person. But when it just doesn't go, it doesn't stop. It just goes on and on and on. The irrelevant blabber. Oh my gosh, so this morning I was eating wild blueberries. Can you believe that? They're blueberries, but they're wild. Like, they grow in the wild. And I was eating this with some oats. And oh my gosh, oats. Oh, oats are so funny. And it just goes on and on. That's where I'm, okay, no. Never listening to them again. Like, make a mental list. Do not watch anyone on this YouTube channel again, or whatever it is. And it's very frustrating to me because I actually want information. So also look for the long rambling introduction that goes nowhere, and the tons of side notes. And side notes aren't always bad if they're interesting or related to the main topic, but when it's a side note of something irrelevant, and it almost seems like they can't figure out what is irrelevant and what is relevant to the topic. Like, if we're talking about crossing the street and not getting hit by a car, it's not relevant to talk about how last week you went out with your friend and tell me all the detail about you got coffee and there was cream in your coffee and this little place is kind of loud and that can be annoying sometimes. And let me tell you what the waitress was wearing. And it's just this endless, unrelated info, blabber, blah, 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 blabber, to tell you the one little sentence of what matters. So this is what I have been doing, is if I listen to a video at the end, I ask myself, what were the main points? Was it anything of value? And how much of that was blabber compared to something useful? How much time are we talking about the waitress's shoes versus what the video is actually about? And of course, it's different if it's something really funny or entertaining or is related somehow to that topic. It might be a tangent, but the tangent is still related, or it might even be an example that backs up that main idea, compared to unrelated, useless blabber. It's so frustrating. So frustrating. I wish there was a list of videos and podcasts that was people who have useful info, because there's also stuff where they will like mess with their tech equipment, and I know that happens sometimes, but when half the video is them being like, okay, hold on guys, let me just pull up my computer, okay, I have some notes, let me just pull them up before you're the one pressing play, pressing record. Get your notes ready. Just like grab your notes here. Okay, they're ready. And now I'm going to press record. But they just want to blabber on about nothing. So that's probably why they don't do that, I would assume. And I think it's also a lack of empathy. If you don't care if your audience is bored and your ego is ginormous, you're just going to ramble and ramble and ramble about your breakfast and, oh, you cut your toenails this morning. Like, no one cares about that, but you don't have empathy to be like, well, if I was listening to this, would I want to know this level of detail about this unrelated topic? And not having the empathy, I think, is another reason that this happens with narcissists. A normal person might start rambling and then be like, oh wait, hold on, they don't want to know this. This is irrelevant and self-indulgent to go on and on about my brand new shoes and tell you all about, oh, I went to the store and I stood in line, and like, oh right, no one cares. Yeah, no one cares. Let me edit that part out, or just not bring that up, or stop myself mid-sentence and be like, wait, hold on, no one cares about this. Let me get back to the original topic. Sorry, it's like, it's so loud in thin wall apartment. Okay, so that's all that I have today. And unrelated point. See, I'm telling you an unrelated point now because my video is over. So now if I want to blab about nothing, that's where I would put it at the end so I don't waste your time. But that's the reason when I do karaoke on TikTok, everyone's always like, you're so quiet, you need to sing louder. And it's like, that's why I don't sing louder. If I can hear people that loudly, you know, it goes both ways. This morning I was hearing a baby crying as if it was in the room with me. It was so loud and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. I couldn't even tell. It didn't even sound like it was from my own building. I feel like it was from a building off in the distance, but it was so loud. It was like it was in the room with me. So that's an irrelevant, rambly story, but I put it at the very end so that if you want my main message, you didn't have to sit through that whole thing to get to it. A narcissist would take that same story and maybe put it at the very beginning before they get to the life-saving piece of information, and they would stretch that story out and maybe make it half an hour. All the detail of, oh, I walked up to the window and I opened the curtain and I was like, where's this baby? Is it from here? Is it coming from that building? And then I was drinking my coffee, and they will go on and on with a level of detail that no one wants. So anyway, hope that was interesting just as far as identifying some speech patterns that are a waste of your time. I think it's mostly narcissists who do this, but regardless, who cares? They're wasting your time. So, and I know I've fallen for this many times myself, where I have had hours of my time wasted when I'm cleaning and I'm just listening on my headphones to a video or a podcast thinking, oh, this will be useful, I'll learn about this topic. And then I'm like, well, everything's clean now, but I've learned nothing about that topic. I've learned about 3 sentences of information. What a waste that was. I hate that. Anyway, I have more videos on narcissism, and they're all divided into a playlist. If you only want to hear about narcissism, go to my narcissism playlist. I also have ASMR videos if you want to chillax a bit. And I don't even remember, I have a bunch of other playlists about my novels and about writing tips and personality types. I'm an ENFP, by the way. And I also have a new book out on Kindle Vella. I'll put a link below. You can read 3 chapters for free, and likely you can read more than free you can probably read more than 3 free chapters, because Amazon is giving away free tokens. I believe they're still doing it. So you should be able to keep unlocking additional chapters for at least a while down the list. Link below, Attack Your Goals, Not Yourself, which gives you tips on discovering your dreams, making action plans, all the stuff that I do in life coaching with clients, except it's way, way cheaper because coaching sessions are hundreds of dollars. And I've been coaching since 2007 in Manhattan. 2005, before that, is when I first started learning about it. That was a long time ago. Time flies. I can't believe how much time has gone by. Anyway, I've taken my best tips and I use this all myself too, for reaching goals, because we're all human and similar in that we have blocks and we have things that keep us from figuring out what we want and then actually going and doing it, because we're just human. So it's an approach where you can be nice to yourself, but also really productive, also get a whole lot done without going through this emotional roller coaster of being too mean to yourself, which wastes a lot of energy. So it's like the most productive way to do it, to just get that done faster, move forward towards that goal. Whether it is in your career, starting a business, relationships, dating, purpose in life, all of this stuff, you can choose whatever goal you want and use this process with that goal. And I wanted to also do that because right now with inflation and all the things with the economy, I was hearing that there could be millions of people about to be evicted in the US right now. And I was thinking, well, shoot, and even if everyone could afford it, I can't help that many people on a daily basis because there's only one of me and it's an hour per session. So I figured better throw my best tips into a book that people can just read that real quick and then apply it to their situation if that could help at all, because it's not a great place the world is in right now. Anyway, I'll put a link below, but it's called Attack Your Goals, Not Yourself on Kindle Vella, and it's Julianne Malillo, which is my real name, but I've always gone by Julie, but I'm like, oh, it's a book, I should put my real name on there. So Julianne Malillo, Attack Your Goals, Not Yourself on Kindle Vella. Thank you guys for watching, and if you liked it, like it, comment if you want, share whatever you feel like sharing. I like when people talk to each other in the comments because I feel like sometimes you have the same experience and you can kind of almost make friends that way. So yeah, thank you. And if you want life coaching, it is yourdreamslifecoach.com. And if you want to see a list of all of my books, including my novels that have success mindsets so that they don't draw you down into despair and hopelessness, which a lot of media does these days, Julie M. Writer. It's Julie with an E, M. Writer. Thanks for watching, guys.